If everybody will take their seats, we'll begin our meeting in about a minute.
Good morning, Commissioner Goddard. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I like your tie for breast cancer.
Actually, I wore that in honor of Miss Faye.
Good deal.
Gentlemen, ready? Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners meeting for March 12th to order. I want to welcome everybody. We'll begin our meeting by asking Pastor of Missionary Advanced Ministry, Juan Sanchez, to come forward for our invocation, and Commissioner Harvey will lead us in the pledge. If everybody will please stand.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to gather together, Father, to do what we're called to do this day, Lord. And I pray that you will continue to give the wisdom to this wonderful man and woman, Father, that they'll continue to lead us in wisdom, Father, and integrity, Father. And I pray, Father, that you will continue to give them direction, Father, for the sake of this beautiful county. We praise you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Sanchez, and thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioners, in your agenda, we have an addendum. Item 1B would be the approval of minutes of the January 22nd, 2019 Board of County Commissioners regular meeting.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve by Commissioner Harvey and a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think it was Commissioner Turner that made the name change.
We have a motion by Commissioner Turner and a second by Commissioner Harvey, or excuse me, by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
He beat me to it, Commissioner.
I'll slow down.
Before we move on to presentations, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Harvey, who's going to say a few words about Miss Faye Sparkman, who passed away last week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you all know, Faye Sparkman was a longtime fixture here in our county commission chambers for well over 5 years that I've been a commissioner. Her and her husband Sparky sat up here and reminded us of the things we were doing wrong and congratulated us on the things we were doing right. Created a little club called the Huggers Club, which some of us were involved in, and trying to bring some unity. She lost her battle with cancer a week ago Saturday, and she was very courageous during the whole process, and it was just a blessing to have her here. And I know that some people might think that, you know, there was some, that what she made me do as a commissioner was to study and make myself better. And I would encourage all of you, anybody that's out there listening to us, if you have questions, don't just go to the rumor mill, but come to us and ask us these questions and make us better commissioners. And that's what Miss Faye did for me, was to always challenge me to, and there was a lot of times I would say, Miss Faye, that's not correct. And that's okay. I mean, we had that opportunity to communicate. But her service will be this coming Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, the 19th, at Bethel Assembly of God at 6 o'clock in the evening. That's right across from Interlaken High School. Interlaken, not Interlaken. My wife gets on to me for that. But her service is going to be at 6 o'clock at Bethel. And if you can't attend, we do stream our services live on the internet. And so you can see it from home if you can't attend. But it'll be a memorial service for Miss Faye. And I think, Commissioner Goddard, you had a special thing you were doing today.
If anybody might have noticed, I have a pink tie on. That is for Miss Faye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. She was a special lady, and she definitely kept you on your toes, and she definitely spoke her mind. No question about that. So thank you, Larry and Commissioner Goddard. Okay, we'll move on in our agenda. Item 1C, presentations. And I'd like to ask Mr. Bruce Ferguson and the president of St. Johns River State College, Mr. Joe Pickens, to come and give us a presentation on Career Source of Northeast Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having me. I want to especially thank Commissioner Harvey for his assistance in getting us on the agenda, and to Terry Suggs for the same reason. Thank you for accommodating Mr. Ferguson's schedule. So I am the Putnam County representative on the Career Source Executive Committee. I wanted to introduce Wayne McLean, who's in the audience, and he is also on the Career Source board with me. We're in need of a Putnam County commissioner to represent the county on the First Coast Workforce Development Consortium. But I also thought, since it's a relatively new commission, that it would be a good time for Bruce to just take a few minutes and talk to you about what Career Source does in Northeast Florida in general, and for Putnam County in particular, and kind of reintroduce Career Source to the commission. And so thank you for your indulgence, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you, President Pickens. Good morning, Commissioners. I am Bruce Ferguson, as he said. I'm the president of Career Source Northeast Florida, and hopefully you had a copy of a few of the slides. I have a brief amount of time this morning, I know, out of respect of your time and those also in the meeting. But we are the Regional Workforce Board for Northeast Florida. We are in place to help our businesses be competitive in the local economy as well as the state and globally in many cases. We are there to connect employers with the talent they need to succeed, and look forward to doing that every day. We have career centers in each of the 6 counties we serve. We serve Baker, Clay, Duval, Putnam, Nassau, and St. Johns counties. Those are the 6 that make up our service area. And there are 23 other workforce boards like ours. Well, they're not quite as good as ours is, but across the state. This is a national program, if you will. We have a state board of directors, Career Source Florida, that sets statewide policy for us. And then we work through the Department of Economic Opportunity is our administrative and fiscal oversight for all the 24 boards. I've got a little bit more detail on that in there. We do have, because we have the 6 counties and because we are publicly funded, these funds come from the U.S. Department of Labor primarily. We do have some funding from the Department of Health and Human Services at the federal level, but it's all formula driven right down to the local level. So Tallahassee doesn't get to tinker too much with that. So it's based on the formula are based on things such as our unemployment rates, our poverty rates, number of the population of the region, and that sort of thing. So those metrics are what they are, and that's how the funds get distributed out to the states as well as down to the very local level. So as I said earlier, we're here to support our local business community in ensuring they have the workers that they need. We work very closely with St. Johns River State College and all of their campuses, as well as Florida State College, are probably our primary training providers in providing scholarships for individuals that are trying to upgrade their skills and find that better job, or in many cases find their first job. So we're there as that conduit between the business community and the job seeker. We work very closely with the Jacks USA Partnership, as well as the Putnam County Chamber and Economic Development folks as they're trying to recruit businesses and jobs. We're there to make sure those companies that are looking to expand or relocate understand that we can help provide the skilled labor that they need to succeed. There are some mandatory programs that we operate. The Welfare to Work program is one of those. So as folks need that cash assistance or need some assistance as they're trying to find a job, that work requirement works through our offices, as well as the SNAP program, food stamps for able-bodied adults without dependents. So we're always working with those, trying to connect them back to the workforce. There's nothing better than a job to cure poverty, right? So that's what we're about. We work very closely with not only our education, as I said, but our business community. Our private sector-led board of directors for the private board sets our strategy, sets our policies. We try to focus our fund. We have limited dollars, like we all do, on those targeted industries where we think and where the data tells us the strongest likelihood for success once somebody comes out of training. So we do a lot of training in healthcare related fields, distribution, logistics, information technology, those kind of things that as we invest the public dollars in upgrading these folks' skills, we know they have a great opportunity to succeed once they complete their training and getting a job. So I've listed at the end, and I sometimes hesitate to do this, community partnerships. We are not the be-all, end-all. It takes a lot of folks working together to make this kind of system work. And what we want to ensure we do is what we do best. And if there's another organization, another nonprofit, another governmental entity that has a different program that works great, we want to partner and support that program. We don't want to try to replicate it. So partnerships are really part of our foundation. We don't want to be the be-all, end-all. So I'd be glad to take any questions. I don't know how much time you have for that, Commissioner, but and certainly invite you. We have our Career Center. We actually opened it back up in the Palatka Mall back at the end of October. I think it's we've already seen an increase in traffic. We've had a little over or right at 5,000 job seekers coming in and out of that just in the last 6 months or so. So we've seen a definite uptick in that. There's a lot of positivity around. Jobs are there to be had right now. I know Putnam struggles a little more than most of the rest of our other counties, but it's still, we're trending in the right direction. So be glad to take any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Rawls?
More of a comment. I spent about 4.5 hours at your group at the mall about a month ago, and I was very impressed with the facility. It shows well. They seem to have a lot of activity. I like your skills training room. One question I would have you guys ever considered doing any, when I was talking with some of the ladies there, skills training that would put out basic skills for some of the more essential jobs that are needed for the county to grow, like in construction, being able to handle power tools, read measuring tapes, cut lumber, stuff like that.
Right. Certainly one of the big focuses that we have, and we've seen this push, and I think our new governor's really pushing this, is through apprenticeships. Mm-hmm. We recently got an apprenticeship expansion grant from the state, and those are very prime jobs. Construction and other trades are very prime for that. So as we get that, I mean, literally got that grant funding about a week and a half ago, and those are exactly the kind of things that we're going to be looking at.
Okay. Mr. Harvey?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, thank you, Bruce. You did say that you're looking for somebody from the commission to serve on your board.
So we have.
Can you give a little information on
Correct.
that?
So we have what we call the First Coast Workforce Development Consortium. That is made up of a member of each of the counties, or each of the county commissions of the 6 counties. So we do need a Putnam County representative on that board.
Okay, where do you meet, how often, what time?
That is typically a teleconference meeting, and it is 2 to 3 times per year is the typical meeting amount.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll discuss that at our workshop.
Mr. Chairman.
And I'll be glad to answer any other questions or even attend a workshop if you would like.
If no one wants to do it, I would love to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that Mr. Commissioner Harvey be appointed to that position.
Didn't take you long, did it, Mr.
I'll fight you over it.
Okay, I don't think we have to vote on that. I think it's by consensus, and congratulations, and thank you for stepping up and serving on that consortium board.
All right,
So-
thank
And
you.
Commissioner Harvey, I have a way longer presentation for you now.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Bruce,
sir.
thank you. President Pickens, thank you. Okay, item 1B, Ken Moore and Teresa Schoolcraft, use of the government complex lot, the American Legion nationwide 100-year anniversary celebration on April 13th. Are either Ken or Teresa here this morning? Okay, I guess not. Are they supposed to be here?
Yes, sir. They requested to be on the agenda this morning to come and speak to you. I don't know what may have transpired, but what they're asking to do is the 100-year celebration for the American Legion. I have given them the soft okay to do this. I was confident that the commissioners wouldn't have any issue with it. The only concern was that they were looking for power and water, and we don't have either out there, but they're going to be able to work through that. They were going to be here this morning to kind of explain and describe a little bit about what they were looking to do, and also extend an invitation to all the elected officials in Putnam County to please join them on during their celebration. But I'll get back with those folks and see if they're still scheduled to do that.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
all right. Thank you, Minister Suggs. Commissioner Turner?
Do you need a motion on this, or do you want to just do it by consensus, or do you want us to just say you can do it, or what?
However
Where do
you'd
you
like
want
to
it to
do
go
it.
from here?
However you'd like to do it, sir. I'm good with a consensus. I can't imagine us not doing that, so.
I have no problem
Consensus.
with
Okay,
it.
thank you so much, folks.
Okay, everybody good?
Okay.
We learned that in Tallahassee, if we support and waive. So,
Waive and support.
right, Commissioner? Right, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, we'll move down on the agenda, number 2, to recognitions. I'd like to call up Human Resources Director, Mrs. Lori Parker, for her presentation. And I'm going to go to the podium also.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a quarterly recognition for employees for their years of service, and we do them at the 5-year levels, and we have 3 on the agenda today. And here you go. If we could start off, if Angie Wisnick can step up, please. Angie started with us in 2014 as a Parks and Recreation Director, and she is celebrating 5 years of service with us.
Yeah, good deal.
Next is Richard Back. Richard is a paramedic firefighter with us. He started with the county in 2009 as an EMT and then promoted to paramedic firefighter in 2014. He is celebrating 10 years of service.
Yay.
Next is Karen Adams.
Yay, Karen.
Karen first started with the county with the tax collector's office. She started with the tax collector in 2004 as a customer service rep. After 1 year with the tax collector, she transferred to the Board of County Commissioners as a staff assistant too with sanitation. Karen is celebrating 15 years of service.
Yay, Karen.
Anybody have any comments or say anything?
I'd like to say something
Okay.
if I could. I think what's really important here for everybody to realize is that this is not typical of Putnam County. We lose a lot of folks to other surrounding counties, and I was talking to Richard as I was coming back in, that we need more people like him that are willing to stay in the county, that are seasoned. And what's really important, especially with the firefighters and paramedics and sheriff's deputies, is when we hire and they move out and we rehire, we don't have the experience of the county. And finding some of the niches in Putnam County we have that are way out are difficult. And if you call for 911 services and you're really in need and you've got somebody new behind the wheel of an ambulance that's not familiar with the territory, it becomes very challenging. So I just want to say congratulations to all you guys for sticking with it, and we need more people like you.
That's right.
You want us up here or down
Why don't we
there?
stand up?
Want us up there?
Commissioner, what you want? Oh, we're going down.
See the green screen.
Push in there, big. Oh, no, it's like that. That's okay. I'm gonna make you a pause.
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
No, did you?
Thank you, Lori, and I'd just like to add, and I personally know Richard Back, and I know he's very dedicated. He's involved in the Willaca Fire Department and also serves down in Crescent City. And Karen Adams, I just want to thank you also for your husband, Todd Adams. Todd is the area supervisor for District 1 and District 3. And I know that Commissioner Turner and I have made his job more challenging since we arrived as commissioner, but he does a great job. And also like to thank Angie Widnott for everything that she does. But I'd like to recognize Angie for something she did on her personal time. The church that I belong to, South Putnam Church in Crescent City, we purchased the old YMCA. So we have a gym, and we're starting to use that for youth volleyball, which is connected in conjunction with the county. And also the Police Athletic League. We had a youth basketball league for the second year, and we just completed that. But Angie came down and refereed some of the games on her own time, and I really appreciate it, and she's very professional, so I'd like to thank you for that. Okay, moving down the line, item B, I'd like to ask Mr. Tim Parker to come up for a recognition.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to thank the County Commission and the citizens of Putnam County for allowing me the privilege to recognize one of our employees for their 20 years of service. Tracy McCreary joined our office December 23rd, 1998 as a staff assistant and was later promoted to the position of deed technician. A lot of our processes begin in that department. That department has consistently received high marks from our audits by the Department of Revenue. Tracy has earned her Certified Florida Evaluator designation after completing the coursework and the tests associated with that designation. As I was preparing for this presentation, I came across a note that read, "You are a joy to work with, and we sincerely appreciate your patience." An internal note reads, "Tracy is always very willing to go above and beyond to do extra things for the office." We appreciate Tracy's dedication to service, not only to our office, but to our customers as well. The certificate of appreciation that we have says, "We hereby express our sincere appreciation to Tracy McCreary for outstanding service and contributions to the citizens of Putnam County for 20 years, and award this certificate from Putnam County Property Appraiser, Palaca, Florida, this 12th day of March, 2019. Tracy's husband, Alex, along with several co-workers, is here today to help honor her. Please join me in congratulating Tracy for her 20 years of service to the citizens of Putnam County.
I appreciate that. You know, it seems like 20 years went by so fast, and everybody asked me if I was 12 when I started working.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I was 12. And I appreciate it. It's been a great career, and I appreciate, you know, all the warmth from our office. I mean, I couldn't work for a better office or a better boss. And I enjoy working with the citizens of our county too, you know, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. Let's get a picture. Yeah. Take your time.
Get my good side? I thought the same thing. Buddy, that tie got here early. Yes, sir.
Your favorite saying, you're not as funny as you think.
Okay, is Linda Myers here? Or a representative from her office?
I don't think-
Okay. Are the people that are going to be recognized. Are they here, I guess? Or James Gardner here, or Patsy Treadwell? Okay, I guess seeing that they're not here, we will move down to the last recognition. I'd like to ask Mr. Press Tompkins to come forward for recognition of James Cuneo.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Last Thursday, the APWA requested that Putnam County host what is called a rodeo. And it's an equipment skills test. And we had Clay County, Jacksonville, us, St. Johns County, City of Palatka, all competing in this. And but what I want to do is a special thanks to James. I think we got a little mic hit the little quick presentation to show you some of the equipment. They were testing out on the great awl, the backhoe, a skid steer, grapple truck, and numerous other pieces of equipment. It was an all-day event out there, and it really helps Putnam County to deal with all the other counties and compete with other people, and the camaraderie that we have with other departments really goes a long way. But it couldn't have been possible without James's coordination of it. He took this thing on by himself, organized the whole thing. We had some help with APWA because it is a thing that happens every year. But he organized it, set it up, dealt with a lot of the local businesses, got contributions, set up the whole thing with the fairgrounds. So I just wanted to do a special appreciation to James for taking this on and doing this thing that was really a benefit to Putnam County as a whole. That we, we're taking part in showing people what we can do. But James went well above what I would have asked of anybody to put this thing together, and he did an outstanding job with it. And we got numerous compliments from the people there and from APWA for putting on such a great rodeo. So I just wanted to do a special appreciation to James today for doing that work for us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Was that supposed to be a was that supposed to be a surprise? And
It was.
I blew that. Well, okay, I apologize for
Yeah.
that. So.
But we got a few slides. I don't know if Mike can get through them or not.
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting for that, may I ask Mr. Thompson a question?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Thompson, I see on the presentation that we had 3 of the 5 judges. Am I to assume that we won most of the events, sir?
Unfortunately, we didn't, because we had timers from other areas. The people were timed on to do a certain task, and it was also timed on the scale of completing the task, but doing it within a timely manner. And we had one gentleman from the county did place 3rd in the, I think 3rd in the great all. But it's very fascinating to watch this. I've been to several of them from other counties, and we did just to compete in it. And the winners of this goes to a national rodeo. APWA nationwide puts on a national rodeo. So the gentleman that wins this one, they go to a state level rodeo, and then they go to a national rodeo if they can get that far. And I will say this, the money that James was able to raise from our local vendors and contractors and all, what we didn't use to put on the event goes to the APWA Scholarship Fund. And they fund several scholarships up at University of North Florida for engineering students. So it was a good benefit all the way around for everybody involved in it. You got it?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yeah, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you. Mr. Tompkins?
Just
Whoops, I'm
go
sorry.
through real quick.
You already
Oh,
did.
okay, I'm sorry.
Was one of them opening the bottle with the backhoe? I saw that on YouTube one day. Did we
Not quite
perfect
that
that one
level.
yet?
No.
And did the fairgrounds get some free work out of all this equipment that was sitting there?
A little bit.
Well, they got a big hole in the ground.
I will tell you
Congratulations, Mr.
a little tidbit. Sunbelt Rental provided the backhoe for us. And most of our people are versed with Caterpillar equipment. JCB equipment, which they rent, the controls are completely backwards.
Yeah, I've had
So
that happen.
everybody was trying to figure out how to make the bucket go in and out when they were used to doing the other way. So it put everybody on a kind of an equal ground. But like I said, I just want to do a special thanks to James for taking the time and effort and energy to put this on. Like I said, it was a great benefit for Putnam County as a whole.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Should come up and get a. And press, I promise, if James is up for the Employee of the Quarter or year or something, would y'all tip me off a little bit before the meeting so I don't blow that also? So anyway, moving down to item number 3, I will recess our regular Board of County Commission meeting, and I'll convene the Port Authority meeting. This time I'd like to open up for public comment for the Port Authority meeting. Anybody wishing to speak? Any items about the Port Authority? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion, comment portion of this meeting and move to item B, County Attorney update on the sale and the closing of the property located on 7100 PRC Way. So I'll turn that over to Administrator Suggs and County Attorney Stacy Manning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real briefly, the due diligence process has moved along very, very smoothly. We are in our final review of the closing documents on that property. We haven't had any major hiccups along the way, and we are tentatively scheduled to close that transaction this Thursday. So I may be tracking you and Mr. Smith down for some signatures here in the next day or two. And that's it.
Okay. Administrator Suggs, you have anything to add?
No, sir, that was it. We just wanted to give a quick update this morning where we're at. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions about that update?
I have some questions. You said that you're looking to close this Thursday,
Yes.
and so they've made the deposit on the building, and that's all?
Yes.
I'll reserve the rest of what I have for the workshop this afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other items come before the Port Authority? Okay. Seeing none, I'll adjourn the Port Authority, and I'll reconvene the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. We'll move to item number 4, public comment. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect the board will engage or debate in deliberation about matters of which the board has received no prior information. As part of the agenda, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comment cards, we appreciate if you would fill those out. They're located at the entrance and the exit of this building. If you'll present those to Sarah Oliver, the clerk, over to the left, right of the podium. And so the first speaker is, I believe it's Marie Reese. Is that close? Okay, could you come forward, please? And if you'll please speak loudly into the microphone, and please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Mary Reese. I live at 2509
Look
Fairway
closer. There
Drive
you
here in Palatka. I am the 5th generation of my family to live in Putnam County. Though I have only lived here briefly as a child, we moved back here when my husband retired to be near family. I have done genealogy and family history work for over 50 years, starting at a very young age. And so it was natural for me to want to go and to deeper research my family. And when we moved here 2010, the library had a what they called a genealogical room, which was kind of in a bit of chaos, and there wasn't anyone there to volunteer or anyone to help. Since that time, all of those items have been boxed up. I was told that the commission had approved a building, an archival building, so that all the archives from the county could be in one central location. That happened in 2017. The original facility, I guess, was not up to snuff, and so they gave them the old bank building, which also had problems. A new roof was put on in June of 2018, and that's where we're at. I'm here to not to point any fingers at anyone, the library board, the commissioners, anyone. I just want to see this come to fruition. And if there's something I can do, I would gladly participate in doing that. If you have some suggestions, an idea was floated about maybe creating an archival committee from the county. It's kind of like the dog's tail is wagging, but there's not a head to move the dog. And so that's kind of an idea that maybe something like that could be established. So I appreciate your time.
Okay, all right, thank you. Commissioner Harvey, you have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Suggs, can you give us an update on what's going on with that building?
Sure. We've met, I guess, 3 times. We originally were talking about the room down next to the supervisor of elections office.
Right.
We've went in there and looked 2 or 3 times with some folks from the archive folks. And then it was decided that we would look at the bank building to see if we could do something. And I think we've done some work since then to upgrade, to fix the roof and maybe some AC work and things in there. But there's been few and far between meetings on this. And so we're aware of it. We've met with them, like I said, 2 or 3 times already. So it's just a matter of just keeping it moving forward at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay,
Ma'am?
Mr. Rawls?
Do you have a semi-formal group that you meet with already?
Yeah.
I'm part of the Putnam County Genealogical Society and Historical Society. Ms. Barnes is here. She's also part of that group, and she's slated to speak.
Maybe this is something we want to put on the agenda for our next workshop to discuss the possibility of.
What we have in the county is a whole bunch of people have this, this group of records. Somebody over here has some, different organizations have different ones. We have some beautiful resources in Putnam County, but nobody knows how to get to them, especially someone coming from out of state to do family history research, whatever. There's the Family History Center at the LDS Church, but that's limited in scope as well. So if we could pull all that together, it would be a wonderful resource for Putnam County, and they could lead the way for the rest of the state.
Maybe y'all could try to get on the agenda at another meeting, maybe our next meeting, and come and do a presentation and see if y'all can be the head that wags the tail.
Sure, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Any other comment?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Again, we'll work with them any way we can. I've had the facilities folks. I had Mr. Shepard join us, as well as Bob Stinner and his folks from IT. We've went down and we've looked at it to see what needs to be done. So we're very much aware of it. It's just a matter of now scheduling appropriate meetings with the folks that want to be involved with it. The point of contact that we'd have was Ms. Marsha Lane.
Right.
And
That's right.
So however they want to work it moving forward, we're certainly willing to do it. We've already committed to it. The commission's committed to it. Staff's committed to it. It's just a matter of getting it done now.
Okay,
Mr.
all right,
Chairman,
thank
may I
you.
ask
Commissioner
one?
Harvey, yeah.
Is Marsha Lane still not with your group? Because she's the one who came before us with the with.
Marcia is not,
Well, I don't mean to start, I mean,
no.
she's the one who initially came and asked for the ask, and we allowed that to take place.
Marcia Lane is
Okay.
president of the
Well,
Historical Society.
Are you Miss, are you Miss Varnes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I didn't
She's our next speaker, so we'll
Thank
get
you,
both
Mr.
of these out of the way. So if you just state your name and address for the record, and then you have.
I'm Sharon Varnes. I live at 100 Nancy Place here in Palatka. I've been in Putnam County since 1970. I am secretary and newsletter editor of the Putnam County Genealogical Society and a director of the on the board of directors of the Putnam County Historical Society. And I enjoy being out and about. What I'm having a problem with is the archives. They closed up the genealogy room, boxed it up, and that was, we didn't have a whole bunch, but we had a bunch of stuff. A lot of folks from San Augustine enjoyed coming to our library because we had certain books their library didn't have. Right now, we're kind of up in the air. The library board, the Putnam County Library, the Putnam County Historical Society, and the Putnam County Genealogical Society met in, where was it? In March 6, 2017, we had a meeting of all the people kind of involved in it to examine the new archives room. That was the original building. Well, it had a bunch of stuff, and we were talking about, okay, we need to do this, this, and this. Well, April the 2nd, 2017, we came here. That was when Marcia came. In June of 2018, discovered that the original spot had too many problems, so we moved over to the old bank building. All right. Finally got the roof on. I peeked into the windows. But when I go to the library, who is supposed to be kind of in charge, they don't know diddly squat.
They're not in charge.
Been trying to find out what's going on. It's been 3 years now, and all us volunteers are getting a little older. We're not going to be able to do a bunch of this stuff. We've tried to do different things, but we need some guidance, some help, because everybody's, standing on top of their heads waiting for the archives to open. Got some great ideas, and I think it could bring more people, more tourists, and more people and more tourists means more money to Putnam County. If we become an archive place to tell about Putnam County. Some of our folks, like Larry Beaton and Mary Murphy, who know everything about the county. But there are other people in this county who know oodles of stuff. The Palatka Daily News is trying to put out new information. The Chamber of Commerce, everybody. We've got the railroad organization. We've got the Mariners Museum, the North Side Historical Society, the South Side. We're having lots of tourist activities, Bartram trails. Everybody's going, hey, Putnam County is something. It's exciting. We can do something, but we need to keep going. We need our archives opened.
Okay,
Help.
Okay, I remember somebody, and maybe it was that Marcia Lane coming to the board.
Yep.
I understood, if I remember back that far, they're looking for a space
Yeah.
from the county. That's what they were looking for, so we can provide that, but I don't know if we can provide the direction or coordinate these individual groups to get together and get on the same page. I don't know if we're the person to do that. So Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Varnes, you're right, but I want to say, I don't believe the library was ever involved in this when Marcia came before us. But I will say this, if you're looking for a head for your dog, you got it right amongst yourselves. You got an administrator who already said, we're ready to go, y'all just need to meet with him. I would suggest, put the head on the dog and come meet with him, and let's get this thing moving forward. We did what we said we would do. We did move you from that location because it wasn't good. And we did put you down at the bank building. So this board's already done that. Now,
Oh, okay.
you're right there at the goal line. Just push the ball over, okay?
All right, so we just need to get organized and meet with who?
This gentleman right there.
Larry Suggs, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll get with you later then.
Thank you,
Yes, ma'am,
Mr.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman,
All right, Commissioner Rawls?
Mr. Suggs, you sound a little bit reluctant when you were talking. Is there money involved? Is there improvements that need to be made to the building to make it where they can use it?
I wasn't reluctant, but yes, sir, there's always money and costs associated with trimming out a building and putting in new hardware, new software for computers and all of that. I mean, we've already spent the money to redo the roof and I believe if we haven't, probably the AC as well, but that's a county facility that we have to maintain anyway. But the cost associated will be the trim out portion of the building to get it prepared and set up properly for the archives and genealogy.
Ms. Varnes?
Wait a
Is
minute.
there
Wait a
a
minute.
time-
Wait a minute. You still have the floor.
Ms. Varnes, does your group have the capacity to raise money to help with the improvements to the building to make this thing move along quicker?
Probably not.
Okay.
There is a possibility if we work with the Historical Society, the Genealogy Society, and all the other societies around here who are desperately trying to get the archives open.
That would help move it forward, it sounds like. Mr. Suggs, is this budget, do we have them in the budget to make the repairs to the building?
I don't believe we had it budgeted per se as far as a genealogical or archive type building, but we do have money if we need to trim out the facility to get it prepared, absolutely. The commission has already given their approval for the project, so it would be up to us just to be able to find resources to do it. You know, we got you got your monthly service bills like electrical and security and all of that. Those are things that we got to deal with, but it will be a reoccurring cost that we have to budget moving forward.
So you have your yes. You got what you came for.
That's right. Hey, want to come, Commissioner Turner?
I'd just like to say that I believe this is a very important issue. I think it's just as important as keeping records that the clerk has to do for many, many years. If we don't keep on top of this, we'll lose it. And once you lose it, you can never get it back. So I just wanted to say if you need to bring it back because it extends beyond yours and the chairman's authority or whatever you need to do, which I hopefully can't imagine it's going to. But I'd certainly like to see this carry forward as one commissioner.
Okay, so you get together and meet with Administrator Suggs.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies.
Mr. Tim, you have any comment about, since you keep our records, just to
Well, I would say that we're certainly a resource for them. We do a lot of digitizing of records and long-term preservation and access, so anything we can do with our knowledge as the custodian of the records for the county, we'd be glad to assist and be part of that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could have one more thing.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
Recently, I had a conversation with Mary Lynn Piantanita in Florhome, and she was telling me they have a building there that has old archives and records and they're trying to get something going as well. So I'd agree with Mr. Turner that you cannot recreate the history documents. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but it seems like the longer time goes on, the more sentimental you get about things like that. But they too have a building they'd like to work on eventually that they're trying to raise money to fix up and do a small museum and bring some of those archives forward as well.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rawls. Sarah, do you have another card?
The time changes messed her up, she said.
Okay, our next speaker, Mr. Douglas Hayes.
Good morning. Before you put the timer on me, I would like to offer a suggestion in regards to the archives.
Can you, Mr. Douglas, can you state your name and
Oh,
your address?
Douglas Hayes, 216 Hilltop Road, Satsuma.
Thank you.
Anyway, because I had spoke with these ladies at their last meeting at the genealogical, and what I offer as a solution is to create a historic archives coalition. That way you've got all the different entities will be represented with that coalition, create a nonprofit, because one of the things is that the manpower of a person being in the archives is going to be volunteer basis, and that way you have a pool of different entities for your volunteers, and it's a $70 file to do a nonprofit, and that way they can have fundraisers to create, and it'll be a network of everybody, and you can have stakeholders like the newspapers and that kind of thing as well as part of that coalition, because they have historic archives. And that, I think that would alleviate some of the costs for the citizens in our tax dollars. and they can have some type of events out in that open area, the reenactments, the whole 9 yards, which will be your tourism draw. And because of the geographical location, it'll bring people closer to the heart of the city and the shopping mall and that kind of thing. So now I'm ready for my 3 minutes.
Here's the rest of your 3 minutes.
They used to have a little box, and I was going to put my hat on top of it. But anyway, the reason I'm here is in regards to animal control. I have been trying to follow the money, and I have a concern. Is the tag that we actually pay, that's a tax. And I gave reference to that at another meeting in regards that we have a tax, a fund, and a department. And animal control does not have a department. We're kind of balancing. I did discover through talking to the comptroller's office and the budget lady, Ms. Popeil, is that, and it's legislated that the tag money goes to the operations of animal control. It's, from what I can tell, is the following of the money. It goes to the general fund, and then there's an account assigned for that monies. Nobody seems to know what that revenue is, other than the total balance, the actual cost of the tag. Because one of the things I was looking at as a suggestion is if we need to raise that value up for revenue for the operation of animal control. For some reason, the total intake on the last budget was like $39,000. Now, if the tag is $5, and we do a ballpark figure of 75,000 citizens, and you got to figure there's homes that have 3 and 4 dogs, but let's say there's 60,000 dogs. There's $300,000 a year for a revenue if that tag is $5. We're paying $15 at a low-cost shot. How much is that coming into our pockets? And so I would like to try to track that money down for budgetary sake. The second thing is my personal grievance, again, is I applied both for supervisor of animal control officer, or kennel cleaner, with the understanding that there may be an in-house hire for the supervisor, because the criteria is to be an animal control officer for a length of time. The current supervisor had no animal control experience, but I've got experience as nuisance wildlife removal and rescue, and I've had 37 different species of animals, and I'm a grant finder, and I know how to coordinate. One of the things is that our overpopulation, would be to establish a fostering program. I've met citizens that would be more than willing to foster a dog on a short-term basis. And that way the dog has its household exposure, versus turning away dogs that there's a reason that person called animal control. The other part is the coordination and helping them to adopt the dog out so we don't even have to take it in, because it is a mental shock for that dog to be institutionalized for a length of time, because now you have a complete readjustment for that dog before it has a home life. And so the beauty of computers is to offer an assistance to the person that wants to turn that dog in, find out what their deadline is, and put that dog up on the computer as well for an adoptability. That way it never even touches grounds out at the landfill. It simply goes from the home to another home. Because apparently it's either ignorance, lackadaisiness, or lack of money to be able to find a home for that dog. That's one reason why I think I would have been a pretty good animal control supervisor. Apparently when I applied, I don't know if it was a lack of ability, but somewhere along the line, I had applied for all three. My application ended up on the human resources person in charge on her desk, and they went ahead and hired all these people, and now there's no positions open. And it was found out post-mortem that I was supposed to create a separate application for each position when I made it very clear that I was wanting to be employed in any three of those, because even if I'm the kennel cleaner, I have a hands-on idea and can move up the ranks. So I'm rather disappointed. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Any other public comment? Okay, I'll close the public comment portion of this meeting, and we'll move down to item number 5, consent agenda. Commissioners, are any items that you wish to pull? And I'll start to my right with Commissioner Rawls.
Yes, sir. Item B and item J. I'm sorry, I.
Okay, B and I.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Goddard,
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey,
It was already pulled, sir, item I, but Mr. Rawls pulled it.
okay, and Commissioner Turner.
I have none.
Okay, and I'd also would like to hear about I. Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and the chairman will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A, C, D, E, F, G, H, and J.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Harvey and a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll move to agenda item B, Commissioner Rawls.
So when I was looking at the CDBG committee, I just, several questions popped out at me. Is the CDBG committee only looking at a certain area of Putnam County, Mr. Suggs, or is it the entire county?
The committee itself,
Yeah.
the committee will be part of the presentation that is required for us to apply for a CDBG grant. So it can be, it's a countywide appointment, and it will be pertaining to a grant that will be specific, geographic specific.
The question goes to the members that you proposed. I don't see anyone in South Putnam, West Putnam, North Putnam. We have one member of staff on there, and in just looking at the composition of the board, it looks like it's heavily weighted in and around the greater Palatka area. And I'm getting a lot of frustrated folks from all over the county telling me that they feel like they're not represented. So, I just didn't know if maybe we could, one solution I would offer would be to maybe make this a one-year term, not a 5-year term, and then take a look at revamping within the next 4 years to make it more inclusive, where all the commissioners could appoint folks onto this thing. So, how did you come up with the list? You just went through the list of people who've requested to be on committees?
And quite frankly, Mr. Commissioner Rawls, I didn't come up with the list. This is we have someone that works for Putnam County in an advisory capacity and then is also in the CDBG grant capacity. And these folks that are on the list, with the exception of Ms. Tabitha, has performed these tasks before and are actually familiar with the services that are necessary to get through the programs.
So, does this have to be decided today, or is this something that we could push to a workshop and have further discussion about?
I'm not quite sure of the time frame. If we want to move it to this afternoon's workshop, I'll look and see, but we are under a time frame with applying for the CDBG grant. There's a requirement to host, I think it is 2 CATF meetings prior to the actual applying for the grant, because there's points involved and requirements involved. So the folks that do this for us have done this for many a year. They're very good at this, and so this is a list of names that are willing participants to do that, because it's a requirement for the grant itself.
Okay. Commissioner Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't need to move this forward. I think these people have served this in the past. I've had a lot of people approach me over the last year and say they want to participate, but I've never had one single person say that, oh, I'm sorry, your block grant advisory board needs to be redone because there's not somebody on there from San Mateo or Crescent City. So while I share some of Commissioner Rawls' concerns over some of the boards that it be evenly spaced, I think it's a much more important on the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee to have people on there that actually want to serve and know what they're doing. So I don't need to move this forward, Mr. Chairman. I'm ready to vote on it.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember doing this years ago, and we do have 2 from West Putnam here. I remember actually appointing Mr. Antonowitz, so I believe all 5 commissioners had an appointment. I don't know why someone from South Putnam's not on there, but I remember bringing up Mr. Antonowitz because he lives out in my district, so District 4, actually, the whole county's our district. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment. Commissioner Rawls, I did notice that there wasn't anybody from South Putnam, but these are individuals that will look at the applications, and don't we have a representative for these grants that people contact to make the application and see if they qualify? And then they come to the board, so I don't know if it's necessary that there's somebody from each district, and I don't think I was offered, to appoint somebody since I've been a commissioner, but isn't that the way the system works? And maybe I hate to put Tabitha on the spot, but maybe she.
Well, you're correct. This is an advisory task force that fulfills the obligation that we have to qualify for the CDBG grant. Once we apply for the grant and we're awarded the grant, yes, then it goes through the process. Everyone has to be qualified. They have to meet certain criteria. So the advisory task force doesn't do that. It just gives us the vehicle that's required to qualify for the additional points for the grant itself. Once we get there, then every application is weighted on its own merit, and there's very stringent criteria that each applicant has to meet before they get accepted, and then it comes back as a whole. Yes, sir.
Okay, but the individuals that wish to apply for an application for these grants are not contacting these particular people on this board?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, we have a grant administrator.
All right. What's the pleasure of this board?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
All right, excuse
one
me.
more question.
Commissioner Rawls has a question.
Mr. Harvey, you said that you had appointed Mr. Antonowitz.
Antonowitz.
So at some point, did the commissioners appoint representatives to this? 'Cause this is a 5-year term,
Yeah.
I guess is my concern. And if in the past it was handled where the commissioners appointed people to it or reappointed, should we not continue doing that, or?
Mr. Rawls, may I?
Yeah, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't recall if it was something that that was an appointment in my district, other than we need somebody from that area to serve on this board. And that's where I found Mr. Anton. So I can't really give you a 100% answer of how that's all made up, but I think we could look into it and see for in the future if that couldn't be a better solution.
Well, in the future, is 5 years from now, we're binding 2 more commissions by our actions today. So we've talked before about not binding other commissions in the future. I would think we might want to renew this for a year and then take a look at it, or whatever, but.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls, Commissioner Turner.
How could you mix that one up? Is the 5-year term something that's in the grant? The reason this is put together was for the process of getting the grants, the community block development block grant. So is this part of it, and the term is part of it? Is this out of a cookie cutter thing, or?
We're not quite, I can't answer that, Commissioner Turner. I apologize. We don't have that information, whether or not it's a process or if it's a term limit. Yeah. But just for clarification, the CATF, whether it's a group of individuals all from South Putnam, West Putnam, scattered out throughout the county, really isn't a concern, because all they're doing is they're an advisory group that's required to meet and be able to have a public hearing in order to get us further down in the process of qualifying for CDBG grants. That is the main function of the CATF. Once that function has been accomplished and we've reached that goal, those points now then go into our application process in order for us to continue through and get grants. They won't have any, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't believe they have any say after that as to anybody's award or non-award of any type of application. They're an advisory group that's required for the grant process itself. So whether they're all in one section of the county or not really doesn't have any bearing on the outcome of the project itself.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Rawls?
So I'm confused as to what the intent of the committee is. Is it from one understanding, this Citizens Advisory Task Force will only deal with CDBGs and nothing else as an advisory task force. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you're saying that they're there to meet and hold a public hearing and that's it?
That is correct.
So how did they advise this commission at that point? What would be their input?
They make, if I can jump in, they make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on which grants that the advisory task force, after having their hearings, feels are, the most appropriate grants. And that is merely a recommendation to this board, and those final decisions are made then by this board.
Right, okay, so, and that's what I thought an advisory task force would do, so, I personally think that we're binding this board and the next one and the one behind it for 5 years, with, I don't have any input as to who serves on this whatsoever. I wasn't consulted prior to this meeting, and, I personally, I'd like to make a motion that we make this a 1-year term and revisit this for further discussion at a workshop on, and also I would like to have more input from the county administrator on exactly what the roles and responsibilities of this advisory task force are, so I can have a better understanding myself.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table this to this
No, sir.
afternoon or to another.
No, the motion for clarity is to make this a 1-year term.
To make it a 1-year term.
And the next year we come back and gives us a year to
Revisit.
Yes.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Rawls with a second by Commissioner Goddard, so we'll open it up for discussion. Commissioner Goddard, do you want to start?
Yes, I don't know, I don't know if the 1 year is going to be a good thing. I would be more in line with a 2-year to let people get things rolling, and I could understand 2 years. That's my input.
Okay. Commissioner Turner?
Mr. Chairman, I understand Commissioner Rawls' concern that it might be binding another board, but it's no different than if you're in your last year of being a commissioner and you appoint somebody to a 3-year term. You've done no different than doing this. My concern here is do we need a 5-year term? I'm sure somebody didn't just make up 5 years. So where did the 5 years come from? Do we have some kind of a research that the advisory committee needs to be? I got a feeling that somewhere in the statute it says that there will be an advisory committee set up. It'll be for 5-year terms, or it'll be reset every 5 years. So, can we look at that?
I will reach out to Mr. Mollissette in between today's meetings and get an answer to that. I don't have that answer with me today, Commissioner Turner.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to put you on
Oh,
the
I know
spot,
that.
sir. I just don't want to do a year and change this to a year or 2 years or whatever. And what we've done is just violated the very statute that set this whole thing up to start with by saying you had to have a advisory committee that would be reappointed every 5 years. Because if you did that, then we're out of compliance with, and we can't get any of the grants.
Mr. Chairman, I don't disagree with any of that, and what I think would happen, quite frankly, is if there's a change in the makeup of the Citizen Advisory Task Force due to someone possibly moving away, not able to serve any longer, there would be a reappointment at that point, so you wouldn't necessarily be tying the hands of future boards. So I'm sure there's got to be a mechanism in place to deal with that. So, my recommendation would be, as county administrator, go ahead and approve it as it's drafted today. If there's changes that need to be made moving forward, we make changes moving forward. Again, we address those concerns as they come up, whether, like I said, whether someone moves out of our county or whether someone's unable to serve or, for whatever reason. So we can look at that moving forward. I'll get with our county administrator and check on that.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Turner asked the question I was going to ask, so thank you.
Okay. So Administrator Suggs, what's your recommendation again?
Well, my recommendation, until we do anything different, I would recommend that we approve the item as presented today, and we'll look at whatever we need to adjust in the future if there's any requirements that we need to change the length of service or appointments. Again, I believe there's an avenue for us to do that. So I would suggest that we approve it as it's presented here today.
Okay, as agenda item B,
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay, we've
Yes, sir.
got a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls.
It's almost counterintuitive. Is there an impaneled CATF now? Mr. Suggs, is there an impaneled CATF now?
Yeah, Commissioner Ross, I don't know whether or not there is or not. We're going after a CDBG grant. This is a requirement. This is what the grant administrators has put forward for us to approve for this grant process that's coming up.
What I'm hearing is that a lot of I don't knows.
Well, you're right.
And you're asking me to vote on something with I don't knows as backup documentation. Mr. Harvey said that he remembers appointing this gentleman. If this committee is in place now, then we don't even have to take action on it today. I don't.
Mr. Chairman?
I agree. I don't know is where I am.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I can address that if you'd like, sir.
Okay.
We're going, my recommendation was to move forward on the recommendation of the folks that do our CDBG grant work for us. They're not here today because this is generally a very simple process where names are presented and you five vote to approve them and we move forward with the process of the grant application. But that is why there's some questions today that are unanswered because our grant administrator handles that. And but if we need to do anything different, it is certainly up to you five. If we table this and and we miss a grant opportunity, well, that's something we have to deal with. But as a county administrator, I trust those folks that do the work for us, and this was the recommendation that was put forth by the individual who does this work, and that's why I would suggest that we honor the item as presented here today, that if there's any changes that need to be made in the future, we make those changes then.
Okay, any other comment?
Clear as mud.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Rawls, seconded by Commissioner Goddard, to move this to a one-year appointment, as I understand correctly. Okay, you want to keep that motion in second?
I'd be willing to amend it to a 2-year and go along with what Mr. Goddard said.
Okay. Got it.
Mr. Chairman, before we move off, you've amended your motion. Hang on. I'm sorry. I think you got to get a second on that before we have.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'll second again for discussion.
Okay.
Would it be possible, Mr. Chairman, thank you for recognizing me. Would it be possible to table this until, usually we don't vote at a workshop meeting, but maybe we can get our questions answered by that time today?
That's what I'm feeling. Administrator Suggs, do you think you could have some of those questions answered by this afternoon and we could take action on this? Because what I do not want to do
Right.
is for us to postpone this thing and somebody missed the opportunity to get a grant.
That's right.
That would be awful. That'd be terrible, for somebody that really needs this help and has been waiting and filled out and probably number of applications and been turned down. And because we didn't do our due diligence, that we've allowed them, not to get a grant.
I will certainly reach out to those folks as soon as this meeting is over today and see if I can't have an answer to you before 2 o'clock session.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, withdraw this
I'll
motion
withdraw.
and the second. Okay, we in agreement with that,
Yeah,
Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this to the 2 o'clock workshop.
Second.
Okay, second. Any discussion?
One comment, please.
Okay.
Mr. Suggs, for clarity, what I would like to know is, what Mr. Turner was going to, is what policy dictates the composition and the term of the committee and the roles and responsibilities of the committee, if we could get something on that. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Aye. Okay, motion passes with Commissioner Turner dissenting. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item I. Commissioner Rawls.
Give me just a second, I gotta find these. All right, so this is regarding the septic sewer system, and I've got a lot of concerns about this. So my thoughts probably will not come out in any sequential order, but you'll get the point. I made myself a note that says, I'm concerned with the low participation rate, and this adds to the burden and cost of maintenance. And so what I know about the East Palaca sewer system, and we're doing the same thing in the south end, is that we go into somebody's yard and we get them to agree to abandon their septic system that they currently pay $0 a month to operate, just their long-term maintenance costs that they might have having to have the system maintained or the drain field replaced. Knowing full well that this could impact the BMAP one day, or that might be in an impacted area, one question I would have is, and you don't have to answer right now, but at some point I'd like to hear, are the citizens aware of what their overall costs are going to be? Because my understanding is, for us as a county, in conversations with Public Works in the past, we installed that grinder pump system in their house, and we are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of that grinder pump system in perpetuity. You have a 10% participation rate in all of the names that were listed here. Only 10% of the people say they want to go from septic to sewer, but we're going to have to install the entire system, and it obviously would not be practical to go past Buddy Goddard's house to get to Bill Pickens' house without putting a tap in at Buddy Goddard's. So there's going to be a tap in a box, I'm assuming like we did in East Palaca, whether they're ever connected or not, the work will be done. So we have a cost associated with that. And I realize that we're working off of a grant, but we have a $200,000 in on our side, and then we own the maintenance of this thing in perpetuity. So that was my biggest concern, was the fact that we don't have a buy-in from the public that we're trying to serve. The public's not buying into this and agreeing to participate. And at other meetings in the past, I've asked what percentage of customer base we have in relation to our debt service. And the answer's been that we're about 40%. We need to be a little more than double where we are in East Palaca to make the utility pay for itself. It doesn't sound like this is going to move that needle forward at all. And I think in the end, it'll end up costing us more money on the maintenance side, because there is a date certain that these pumps have, and we own the pumps, and we will be replacing them in the future. In East Palaca, they're already, I don't know, it's half a dozen years old or so. But I'll relinquish the floor for right now.
Okay, Press, you want to address any of that?
Yes, sir, I can. The type of system was decided by previous boards on what was going to be designed and put in East Palaca. And it was decided that a low-pressure pump system with grinder pumps was the only realistic way, with the dollars that the county had available, to get a sanitary sewer system in this area. Okay. In the policy that was given down to me, that the county did install these grinder pump stations, and the county was responsible for the maintenance of them. We have not had a whole lot of trouble with the pump stations we have, and I granted they are mechanical. They will wear out over a period of time. But I believe that what we were, I'm going to say led to believe, that we could probably get a good 15-year life cycle out of these pump stations. And yes, they will have to be replaced. There's no question about that. We are continuing the same policy today in East Palaca, because that was the system that was designed that we are installing. As this board knows, we are just now finishing up phase 1 of this project, which we got same cost share money from the Water Management District to put in phase 1, which was basically all the way down to Paradise Point and pumping the sewage all the way back to our Gilbert Road plant. This particular project, we were very fortunate to get more cost share money from the district to do what we are calling phase 2. Phase 1 was basically just a trunk line force main that enabled us to get the sewage to Gilbert Road. This particular phase here will actually allow us to go down certain streets and actually pick up customers to put on the system. Our recollection is we could possibly pick up in the vicinity of maybe 100 new customers. Granted, we needed more than that, but we have to take what we can get and keep the system going. This will allow us to expand the system, and I agree with you. We'll put in whatever necessary taps in as we pass properties to the ones that have signed up. And I will say this, Commissioner Turner was there with us when we did all the public hearings, and we explained that to the people, that if they were to sign up at the public hearing, they would be ones that would be assured that their house would be hooked up. Now, if we have monies available and other people want to hook up, then that's something we'd have to bring back to this board and say, we've had, 15 new customers that are willing to hook up now. We have monies available. What is your preference? Commissioner Turner?
Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and press. I'd like to try to bring us into the fact that today they're asking for us the board to approve the contract. This has already been vetted by the board. We sought the grant. We voted to go after the grant. We vetted. We knew it was going to be some money to be added in. So I understand that we have to bring everybody up to speed here, and I certainly understand that. But by the same token, today they're asking to just approve AWA, is it AWA?
Sir, TB Landlock.
TB Landlock Construction, who had bid the job, correct?
It was a design-build process that we went through.
We went through it. But anyhow, they're asking us to do that. The money for this has been approved months ago.
Yes, sir.
The grants were sought after by us. They didn't just fall out of the sky. Mike Nimitz, on the last minute, was like working until midnight one night trying to get the grant application put together where we could get this in on time. We decided at one point to split the grant application, thinking that it would make us get it a little easier, and then we just got real lucky and got both sides of it. Everybody was shocked. So, Mr. Chairman, if we could kind of bring this in, that this project's already been voted on, approved, ready to go, the money's already budgeted, everything was ready to go on this, with the exception of we just need to approve these guys to go move forward. And so I just wanted to try to bring it back into where we are, that we've already vetted this thoroughly.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only concern I have, and I think I sent you an email last week, so this isn't a shock to anybody. I'm not really happy about the no bid contract in today's environment, but I understand that a lot of people worked we started it a long time ago. Commissioner Turner jumped in there with you, Mike, got this second phase. It's going to be good for development in that area. A lot of good things are going to happen. But my email to you was possibly, did we ask Water Management for an extension? Because my understanding is we're not really going to start construction until June or August of this year. So we have time to meet that. So help me get there. Help me understand help me better with the no bid thing, because it's quite a bit of money.
Can I help a little, Mr. Chairman?
Before you start, press, Commissioner Turner.
I think that with it being a design build, they're gonna need about 3 or 4 months to go to design this project. I imagine that's what the time is from getting it now to time to design.
We estimate approximately 9 months to go through that process.
Okay.
The design build procurement per state statute provisions is a 9-month process roughly. Okay, from the time you get the award to the time you have to bill for construction activities to be eligible for this funding is roughly 9 months. So by the time you identify your design build entity, you're not going to meet your deadline. So we have to advance this forward. We can't utilize that process for procurement because it'll push us beyond our start date. That's why we've brought this to the board this way.
And Mr. Chairman, I've said in the past, and I don't mind saying it again, one of the most frustrating things for me for being a commissioner is how long it takes to do something in government versus the private sector. It's just frustrating at sometimes. And so I understand the fact that we need to try to get this moving. If we don't, we could miss something, and unintentionally miss something. And worst thing I could see happening here is us lose the grant for Horse Landing and Pico Road area. I mean, that's I think someday be a vital part of the system. And the biggest reason I say that is not only for the environmental part of it, to keep the septic systems out of the river, but also the portion of it to where you let us get another big rain and all the septic systems down there start working, people start running to you asking, can they sign up? So yeah, right, if it's a little dry and everything's working, not so much. You let it go ahead and flood again and see what happens. They'll beg us to try to get them signed up by Tuesday evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that insight, and I will yield the floor.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
So, being the new guy, I get to ask all the dumb questions because I wasn't here when you guys discussed this in the past. I do have a lot of grievances with the original system that was installed and that was proposed, and Mr. Nimitz is shaking his head yes, and it comes with a high cost to us in the future, us being the folks that may not live in East Palaca or San Mateo. I'm not saying I'm opposed to septic to sewer. I'm a proponent for sewer systems. I'm a huge proponent for gravity feed versus force main. But with that said, in the letter that was sent out, it says, I blank express my support and commitment to the proposed project. The Putnam County Board of Commission intends on submitting a district-wide cost share application to St. John's River Water Management District. If the grant is approved, we agree to abandon our septic. Now that says we agree to abandon our septic. How much money was told to the homeowners they were going to expend out of their pockets to purchase a septic abandonment permit, abandon their septic tank? I'm sorry, what?
It is, if you don't mind, it is all covered in the grant. We were very specific with the Water Management
So
District.
the county is now responsible for abandoning an on-site septic system in these 100 and something yards.
It is part of the contract. It was part of the scope of work for TB Landmark, because what we told the district was it doesn't do us a lot of good to get money to put in a sewer system and then expect the homeowners to abandon their septic tank, hire the plumber to go from the wet well to their house. I said that has always been a stumbling block for every county, every city that does this septic to sewer conversion. The district says we will pay then to actually have the wet well installed, we will pay to have the line run to the house, and we will pay to have the septic tank abandoned properly. So it was an all-cost included contract to do this, and that's why we went out to the homeowners. If you sign up for it now, you get the full ticket.
Right, and TD Landmark gets the full job. There's no guarantee of local participation with local contractors here. How many local plumbing companies will get the opportunity, or local electrical contractors will get the opportunity to service, to work on or perform under this contract? Because once we approve this to TD, they control everything 100%. There's no participation guarantee agreement built into this that I can find. If you can point it out to me, I sure would like to see it. But this commissioner advocates for use of local subcontractors, and there's nothing in here about that.
I don't know if, and the gentleman with TB Landmark is here, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but
I would.
I do believe that they have, will use some local contractors, help them on this aspect of it.
You didn't ask citizens to guarantee in verbal. You said sign it. Everything here is signed, and I'm just saying it sure would be fun to have that in writing.
Mr. Chairman, if I could step in and answer that question, we're not allowed to use local preference on the grant
Not
funds.
local preference.
Right.
But have a clause in there that stipulates that they will use local contractors if available.
That's
There's
called
not-
local
We cannot do that.
preference. You can't do that. It's against the law. Excuse me, Mr.
okay.
Chairman, I'm sorry.
We're fixing to spend
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
$200,000 of
hang on,
local money.
Hang on just a second. Stacy, will you clarify that again?
It's not allowed.
Okay.
Disqualify us for the grant funds.
So we can't put anything that, if possible, you can't say you have to, you can't say it, if possible, if necessary. You can't put any of that in there.
Right,
Right,
they could
use local
certainly,
contractors.
I mean, a lot of times, that's certainly, there's a reason for a contractor to want to do that, because it makes sense for them to be able to use
Right.
locals, but it cannot be any sort of requirement in the contract, no.
Okay, all right, excuse me, Commissioner.
Or even a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, it's part of statute that you cannot use local preference on state and federal monies when they're funded by state and federal monies. We ran into
Right.
research in the local preference statute that we did locally.
And
All right, Commissioner
Mr.
Rawls. All right, Press, you want to go ahead?
Well, Mr. Manning is correct, and we're very careful with that in dealing with the district and DOT and all these type of grants. We have absolutely no reference whatsoever to any type of local preference. Like I said, that would kick us out immediately. Marty with TB Landmark is here. He's the general manager of it, and he would like to address that issue that you brought up, Commissioner Rawls, if that's all right, Commissioner Pickens.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to use local electricians to do the electrical work. We're not an electrical contractor. We are a licensed underground utility contractor. We are a licensed plumbing contractor. So everything will be turnkey from us on the way out. So septic tank demolition, vac trucks, pumping that down, permits, locals will be taking care of that for us. Everything else we do in-house. There's no sets of markups. I know you're concerned about the price, but it's one-stop shop. That's why we work our way all the way out. So,
It's about $12,000 per connection, correct?
and real close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that including engineering and design, or is that just for the work done on each of these 110?
The price you got is for the design and installation.
Well, just it breaks out the price, and it says connection, your lift pump system and your connection abandonment is $12,200 per residence.
Correct.
Right. And
That's the electrical, the septic tank demo, the permits, it's got to be
Right.
pulled, the proper way to pump the septic tank out,
Right.
knock the lid in, fill the fill dirt that goes in it, all that.
in round numbers, you're less than $1,000 to abandon a system. You've got about $500 to $1,000 in electrical. Your pump system's going to run you less than $2,500. So I'm just saying that these are some pretty steep costs that we're fixing to incur on this system, personally speaking.
The numbers are a little different than when we've budgeted it out and we called for pricing,
Right.
so.
Thank you. Any more questions? Commissioner Goddard?
I do. Of course, I've been fortunate. I sat in on commission meetings, sat on the, out there with the citizens. So I've seen all the sides and how this thing's going. But also, and we've been privy to being up in legislation. Legislation is pushing to get rid of septics. I don't know if anybody's aware of that, but that is coming. And our county would be devastating. The nice thing is I've heard them relenting that they would do a percentage, how many percentage in the county is on the sewer system. But with that said, everything that we've got to do, we have to provide a service to the citizens. That's a hard thing for me to go from being a contractor to sitting in this seat here where it's not return on dollar investment. It's return on customer involvement, customer satisfaction, and the things that we can provide to the cities, to the citizens. So I've looked at all this. I've been involved in all this. I don't have all the details, and I didn't crunch numbers as you did. Personally, I know this needs to be moved forward, so I'm gonna make a recommendation that we move forward as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion by Commissioner Goddard and a proper second by Commissioner Turner. There's any more comments
One more
or
comment.
discussions? Commissioner Rawls?
I'm in favor of septic to sewer. I'd love to see Putnam County on it entirely. What rubs me the wrong way with this and with the original system put in is the cost and the burden to all the taxpayers on a utility that is losing money every single month. This is going to add to the loss on a monthly basis. We're not going to see revenue coming in that's going to decrease our payout from the Better Place plan to cover the loss on the debt service for the sewer system. So, for the record, I'm in favor of sewer. I'm not in favor of continuing to make other people in Putnam County pay for this system that's not supporting itself. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
No,
Commissioner Harvey, or excuse me, Commissioner Turner.
T-U-R-N-E-R, Mr. Chairman.
District 3.
Commissioner Terry.
Absolutely. Well, we do kind of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Lost your train of thought, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Oh, anyhow, Yeah, I agree with 100% that we need to move forward on this. There's no doubt about it. Like I said earlier, we've tried real hard to work our way through this, and this is just basically taking the contract and moving it forward today. I understand the concerns, but of the citizens having to pay the cost for a startup, but I don't know of any fledgling utility system in the United States that went online and made money without somebody backing them up until they got enough flow going in their system to try and make the system make money. So I feel like I totally agree with, I don't like the idea of you having to take other people's money and help with this, but I also don't like the idea of never getting anything done, and this is the only way to get it done. And so I think it's a wise idea to move this forward, and I think that we need to get as much of it done as we can, sewer systems, and then at some point the amount of people paying the monthly bills will outweigh the cost, and we'll start making money. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Okay. We have a proper motion on the floor and a proper second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Motion I passes.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Very much to the press and Mike.
Chairman Pickens, if you would, sir. During the discussion, I stepped out, was able to reach our grant administrator for CDBG, which is Mr. Scott Modisette. Got the answers to the questions that we're seeking here this morning. The answer to question one, whether or not there's a citizen advisory task force in place now, the answer to that is no. There is no policy that dictates the length of appointment. And thirdly, the reason why that the 5-year appointment was requested is simply because CDBG grants run in 2-year cycles, and it gives the same group of individuals an opportunity to advise us on 2 grant cycles without having to go back and seek 5 other or however many members we need for CATF. So that's the answers to the questions here this morning. So knowing your propensity for not wanting to make motions and set policy and workshops, if you'd like, sir, maybe we can revisit item B.
Okay. We'll move back to consent agenda item B, and I'll open up for any discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we have to remove that from the table.
Yeah, we have to.
We'll have to bring that back.
Well, you can bring it back up now, adding it back to this agenda if you'd like. You can either do that by consensus or a separate motion.
I'll make a motion that we bring item B back up for discussion.
Second.
Yep.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Harvey, a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chairman?
Agenda item B is now back on the consent agenda, and I will turn it over to Commissioner Harvey.
Based on the information I just heard, if it's a correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Suggs, it's a 2-year cycle. So a 2-year term really won't work either for us. But a 3-year term could possibly work, because that would give us into the 2-year and the start of the 3rd year. But it really would be better if it's a 4-year cycle, correct? Is that what I'm? It's going to be a number.
The reason, yeah, I mean, you can dice it up any way you want to get through the 2-year cycle. The reason why there was a request for a 5-year appointment was so that we would have the same task force that would be able to advise us during both grant cycles, which would be a 4-year cycle.
3 or 4, but 4 would be probably preferably.
And if I could just, there may be, the way that time lands, that may be how the 5th year got in there, just for timing wise, so you didn't have something happen in the middle of that cycle.
That could.
And Mr. Mother said, sends his apologies. I reached him on the cell phone today. That's why he was unable to be here. He had a prior engagement he just couldn't get out of.
So I'm hearing that 3 would be acceptable, 4 would be better, and 5 would be more excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Turner?
Mr. Chairman, I don't really have a problem with the 5-year deal, but evidently some people do. But I mean, if the guy's telling us, I mean, all they're doing is gonna make recommendations to come back to the then board, so we're not binding anybody. If somebody has a problem, at the very least, you should maybe stagger them. Do 3 of them with a 3-year term and 2 of them with a 5-year term, and make them all at large. That way, if you have somebody in 3 years you want to appoint to this committee, any commissioner can have the right to bring up that number and be voted on at large. And so then you have 3 at 3 years, or 2 or 3 at 3 years, and 2 at 5 years. And you're not really binding anybody that wants to do it.
Okay.
And I'll make that a motion, Mr. Chairman. I move that we pass item B, excuse me, sir, B on the agenda, with the change that the first 3 on the list be a 3-year term and the second 2 be a 5-year term.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, we got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner and a proper second by Commissioner Goddard. We'll go to discussion. Commissioner Rawls?
My initial concern was the fact that the representation throughout the county does not seem to be there, and that was why I was trying to get this board to slow down a little bit and think about allowing the commissioners to have input as to who serves in the committee. With the exception of Ms. Lassiter, I don't know anybody on this list. Yes, I can reach out to them, I can go interview them and talk to them and find out what their thoughts are. But personally, I was elected by a group of constituents who want me to represent them. And part of that representation would be having input into who serves on these committees, not having a list of 5 names that are not an impaneled committee, as I heard earlier. But having some input as a commissioner to represent the constituents that I agreed to represent. And I don't understand why we have a person on our legal staff. I wonder if there's not a conflict there, but maybe not. Ms. Lassiter obviously lives in the county, but whether or not there's a conflict of interest for her being an employee of the county, I don't know if that could sway the vote of the other members. You know, it's just not sure how that works. So I'm bringing this stuff up only because I'm being questioned on it.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
I do want to ask for clarification. Commissioner Turner gave some great suggestions, but said that these would all be at large. Is that in your motion, Mr. Turner?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, yes, sir. They're all at large.
Okay. Administrator Suggs?
Yes, sir. I'd like to hold my comments till after the discussion, the motion, if you don't mind, sir.
If I could clarify then, so the motion would also modify, in the resolution itself, under section 1, the following individuals are appointed at large to serve the Citizen Advisory Task Force, with the other changes being the first 3 individuals would be a 3-year term to end March 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's my intent.
Thank you. Is that the understanding of the second? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion at all? And as far as a conflict of interest for Ms. Lassiter to serve on that, I believe, you know, these people were selected. I remember part of the selection process, but anyway, if they're looking at the good of the whole county, I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to sway a vote one way or the other just because of where they live. That's why I really wasn't, I saw and noticed that there wasn't a representative from South Putnam, but the way I understand the process works is that there's a contact point, and then it would come to these people. So I don't see why we have to have a representative from each district, even though that may be a commissioner's wish. So anyway, any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Okay.
You're right.
Okay. Next item 6, the Honorable Clerk of Court, Mr. Tim Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple items. I wanted to mention that this week in Florida is called Sunshine Week, and this is a yearly time of year where transparency and open government is highlighted. It's an opportunity for the government entities that hold and preserve records get a chance to talk about how to access those. So we want to take this chance to remind the citizens that most of the records that they would be interested in as it relates to county government are available to view online, and if not, there's a method in place for them to request them to the clerk's office if they would like to see those. So you can look at court case records now. You can also look at official records. So if you want to access a deed, a marriage license, a mortgage, any of those types of things, we have those in the official records. And then on the court side, there is a online court access process that you can go through, and you can access that on our website also, and it explains how that works. We were also notified by Ms. Frank this week that the county has received an additional $60,000 approximately FEMA money, and that's from Hurricane Irma. There are not many of those outstanding items left, so that's good news. We continue to do that. Then on a personal note, I would like to congratulate my niece who works for the Clay County Fire Rescue Service. She is being promoted to chief today at the Clay County Commission, and I'm very proud of her. She actually has scored higher on the chief's exam than anybody ever has. And so it was a debate whether I was going to be here with you or go up and watch her. But like we do here, I can go back and look at a recording of that, and we'll be able to congratulate and share her joy with that. So congratulations to Laura Broski Hamstein. Also, I see Mike Brown in the audience, and the Griffins over here from Pomona Park were asking me if you were here, so if you could raise your hand so they can see who you are. They want to come visit you after the meeting. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for allowing me to make some comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tim. And Mike, Ms. Shirley is the chairman of the Better Place Plan Oversight Committee, and then Mr. Jim is a member of the Town Council in Pomona Park. So anyway, okay, we'll move to appointments, starting with Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have one down on Better Place Plan, District 4. Mr. Larry Mickelson is going to replace Mr. Charles Barr. Mr. Mixler, raise your hand. There, so that's my appointment there, sir.
What's his name, sir?
Larry Mickelson?
Mickelson?
Yeah. Tabitha, I have his information. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
That's all my
That's all?
appointments.
Okay, Commissioner Turner.
I have no appointments today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Goddard.
Yes, I have two. Justin Morris on to the Contractors Board, and also Carolyn Bennett to be on the Library Board to replace Mandy Altman.
Okay, did y'all get that?
You went in my district and.
Sir.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Rawls.
I don't have any appointments, so I would like to say the Waterways and Trails Committee member, I'm serving on that now, so that can be taken off.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, that's, I thought.
We dealt with that a month and a half ago.
Okay. Okay, and I have none. Okay, we'll move to closing comments. We'll start with County Administrator, Mr. Terry Suggs.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good morning again. Just a couple things. You can see our seat down here to the left is vacant. Mr. Reynolds will be back Monday from his honeymoon and nuptials. Also want to congratulate Miss Sarah here this morning on her nuptials this past weekend. Yay. Congratulations to you and Brenda.
Yay.
You know, and also would be remiss if I didn't publicly tell Stacy Manning how much I appreciated his leadership, coaching, and mentoring over the last year and a half. We started our career together, me serving the city, him serving the county as respective managers during the hurricane. And so We got to know each other quite well that night while we were out there in waist deep. How deep was it, Terry? Waist deep on some and knee deep on others? And
You can guess what you switched.
yeah. But anyway, you know, Stacy has a great opportunity, and as county administrator, I really appreciate all you've done for me, Stacy, since I've been here. I know you'll do great where you're going. Our loss is their gain, and you know, just wanted to publicly state that for you this morning because I really haven't appreciated your friendship and your leadership.
Thank you.
So, you know, and one thing else, Commissioner, we do this. We were challenged a while back to get our agendas out earlier than what we were doing. We were getting them out to you near the end of the week, and we've done that. I think your agenda is now coming out 6 to 7 days in advance. And I offer the opportunity, as most of you are aware and most of you take advantage of, when there's items on the agenda that you have question about, I implore you, I actually beg you to come and talk to us so we can actually have conversation. I don't want anything not to be transparent or public, but when we sit in here and we go back and forth on questions and comments of, I'm hearing a lot, I don't know. Well, if we were more prepared with what we may be faced with and answer, I think it would do our citizens a better service. So I'm going to make that offer once again, that anytime you see something on the agenda, please make some time to come down. We're always here, and we'll be more than happy to sit down and discuss anything so that when we sit here, we can have good conversation and move forward with the items that need to be discussed. So that's just my comments, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and look forward to the 2 o'clock meeting.
Okay, thank you, Administrator Suggs. Move down to Stacy Manning, County Attorney.
Can we hold off until the end on it?
We will hold off on Stacy Manning.
There you go.
Just a minute. So we'll go to Commissioner comments, and I'll start with Commissioner Goddard to my right.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to, again, thank you. We're going to miss you, Stacy. You've been great. And I want to commend the staff. We had a lot of questions on a lot of these agendas, items. You guys are great. You take the time, you answer our questions, you get back with us. I really appreciate it. I know it takes a lot of time sometimes dealing with us. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the fair is coming. That's a big deal in our county. And be nice to the people from St. Johns County. They don't have a fair, so this is very important. Also, I want to remind everyone that Sunday is bring a canned good and $1 in. That's a good deal. So with that, I always close with, if you haven't seen Putnam County, you need to get out there and see it. It's gorgeous. Even the things that aren't operating. I spent a lot of time on both sides of the Fort Gates Ferry. Unfortunately, I had to definitely have my Jeep in four-wheel drive to get down to the forest side of it. But things are moving along good, and that will be eventually up and in operation. With that, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goddard. Commissioner Rawls?
Well, let's see. Palaca Sunrise Rotary hosted the first annual Azalea Pickleball Tournament weekend before last, and out of 220 people that registered to play, 180 were actually from out of town. From what I understand, we had someone from as far north as New York and as far south as Miami. Very successful tournament, to say the least. We'll be doing it more. Very small event like that attracted 180 people that never been to Putnam County before, didn't have a reason, now they have a reason. So we're hoping to grow this and scale it up a little bit bigger. Floor Home Veteran Memorial Opening, had that on the Azalea Festival weekend, and that was a really tremendous success, I think. There was a lot of people that turned out for that, and gotten a lot of compliments from people in the past couple of weeks. The Adopt a Pet last Friday, probably stealing Commissioner Harvey's thunder here.
It's okay.
That was a huge success. The folks had to go back to the shelter and get more dogs because they ran out of dogs and cats. And Commissioner Harvey was cooking hot dogs, and he ran out of hot dogs.
You were cooking hamburgers.
Yeah. I want to raise a question. We've been discussing strategic planning, and The fact that, we haven't moved forward that yet. I was speaking with the rep from the Small Business Development Center last week, and she said that they actually offer facilitation for strategic planning at no cost. So I really think, Mr. Suggs, that we should consider reaching out to them if they're willing to come in and do that at no cost. They have facilities available at UNF, or they could come down here. And then the other thing is the budget. I'm really concerned, we're pushing into the 4th month of our budget year now, and I haven't seen anything yet on the budget. Talking to staff and especially senior staff, one of the large concerns is the fact they cannot hold on to their employees, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're not able to be competitive in wages. So, I really would like to see us consider getting the pay scales up. But in order to do that, we need to start having meetings where the commission's involved with the budget process to be able to look at getting some money to the work centers, so the folks that are actually out performing the work can see more money in their paycheck and less of a reason to look to the north or the east or the west. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rawls. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to mention my daughter bought my wife and I some tickets to go see the Brothers Osborne concert over in St. Augustine. If you never heard them, they're a great country band, and they really do a good job. But my point of the story is this. They have family here in Putnam County. They said, we got relatives in Palatka. So everybody was clapping, the whole crowd was. So, hey, Palatka got a little plug out of that, and so did Putnam County. So if you know who's related to the Brothers Osborne, let me know, because I'd like to know that. I'm serious. Last night, I happened to be sitting on a porch with a gentleman about 7 o'clock in the evening and talking about septic systems. And, the trouble West Putnam has had, and the lot sizes and the water rising. And he said, to me, what are we going to do in the future when this problem arises? And I said, I don't know the answer to that. But I do know what will happen. I do know if we're not going to provide a service, the BMAP requirements are going to make us do something in some of these areas. And believe me, you saw the BMAP meeting that we had. It's on our website. Please, public, avail yourself to that video. The reason we did that was for the public to see that one day we're going to be mandated to have these, and DEP's already said, we're not going to meet our goals. We know that. So it's going to drive down to us one day. And you're seeing some moves in Tallahassee about septic systems. But again, they're a drain on local government, whether it's a municipality, whether it's a county. It's not going to make money, unfortunately, until it's up and running for many years. And then you got costs involved then. So, but it's good for our environment. So at the end of the day, I think that's where we hang our hat. This coming Thursday, actually, I go to Tallahassee, and I'll attend my first Florida Association of County Trust meeting, the board that y'all appointed me on to represent the insurance. I'll be sitting on that this coming Thursday and Friday. And I want to close my comments about Mr. Manning, and that's why I asked you to go last, if you don't mind. Mr. Manning, the first day you came up here, you stayed at our place, and we formed a friendship. And I told you then that there was two people in my life that I really didn't want to have a relationship with, and that was my attorney and my bookkeeper, because y'all had...
And that's when you threw me out.
Exactly. But you and I have become friends over the years. We haven't always agreed. Sometimes we've disagreed. Sometimes I've come back with, well, what if we do this or what if we do that? And you've always been accommodating to me. And I appreciate that, because your job is not to tell me what I want to hear. Your job is to tell me the truth. And you've always done that. I'm going to miss you terribly, because we've formed a relationship that I vowed we wouldn't, but we did. And in Volusia County, you're going down there to live in a boat on the river there and enjoy life, and it can't get any better than that. But Putnam County is going to miss you. And I think the paper did an excellent job, and the thumbs up and thumbs down for you the other day. And the thumbs down wasn't berating you. It was just that they were going to miss you too. So know that this commissioner is going to miss you, but I'll always consider you a friend, and I'll always hopefully I can call you with any questions I might have. But I want to say thank you publicly for your years of service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Turner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to join Commissioner Harvey in wishing you the best in your new endeavor. I'm sure you'll do well at it. Thank you for your service you gave us. I'd like to say for the folks at home that the St. Paul's Episcopal Church on March 30th is having a dedication to Stanton Landing. It's going to be a pretty big deal. Commissioner Harvey, as usual, is going to cook. I think he cooks at everything there is.
If it's smoking, I'm
yeah, that's right. Smoking for the citizens of Putnam County, huh? Okay. Also, I'd like to reiterate what our administrator said earlier. It's so difficult to come to this meeting and have an issue with an item on the consent agenda that the staff knows nothing about. You're not only doing a disservice to this board, you're doing a disservice to the staff by not letting them have some kind of heads up that I'm going to question this item. One of the items that was pulled today, I would have bet anything that would have went straight through. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be pulled if a commissioner has an issue. I'm saying you should go to staff ahead of time and say, I'm going to pull this issue and this is why. That way they have the opportunity to not look like a deer in the headlights whenever you ask them a question. It's not fair, and it's beneath a member of this commission to do that. The other thing that I would like to request, a workshop in the future, an item to be placed on the workshop to let the planning department update us on where we are in the cycle on our comprehensive plan. I don't know when we're supposed to look at it next or review it next or whatever, but there's some issues in there that need to be changed, I think. I think that Mike has a list of issues that he kind of puts in there for next time we're going to go through it that we need to look at. And one of those issues is, I didn't really realize it until I ran into it the other day, is one of the policies in our land development code states that you can't have but one home or one residential parcel on a piece of property. It doesn't matter if that's 10,000 acres on a piece of property or 1 acre. That's what it says. So in order to, if you have 1,000 acres of land, you can build one house on it. You can't build one for your kids. You can't build one for your mother. You can't do any of that without breaking that parcel out and making it another parcel. I think that's the most ridiculous thing. I don't know when we put it in there. It didn't used to be in there, but I think we need to look at that. We have other items in the comp plan that need looking at also. So if I would like to request a workshop in not too distant future and give Mr. Brown the opportunity to come up with this list of issues and things that he's have been identifying as we went along, and maybe he could make some recommendations and suggestions to us on some of the changes that he would like to see made that's better for the public. You know, about the first way you're going to get a call from one of your constituents, or in this case, it happened to be somebody I knew real well, was my cousin. So he didn't mind calling me and letting me know how silly that was, that on his 33 acres, he could only have one place without cutting another one out. So without going and getting a special exception, and I'm not sure that there's a lot of things that you can't even get a special exception on. Not saying that's one of them, but there's a lot of uses that don't allow for you to even go and ask for a special exception. So anyhow, with that being said, I'd like to request that go to workshop sometime in the not too distant future, that we could get an update from Mr. Brown. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Turner. A couple of comments. I know that Commissioner Turner and some of the other commissioners have mentioned this, but I had two different individuals contact me last week, and it was their issues with two different departments of the county, and they said their phone calls were not returned. So if you'll please return your phone calls. If the department head cannot return a call, please have a staff member at least reach out to them with some correspondence, because you know, you may not be able to give them the answer that they want, but they would like some type of response. So if you would please do that. And Stacy Manning, I just want to thank you for your service to the county, to the BOCC. When Buddy and I were elected, wasn't long after we were elected that things started to change, and you were definitely there, a steady rock. I appreciate all your advice, your availability. You've always made time for me, even in short notice. I want to thank you for your stint at interim county administrator. Also, Ms. Stacy Papel, I'm not going to leave you out, because those were some trying times, and we worked through it. But I appreciate your leadership. I hate that you are leaving, but I know you'll do a great job in Volusia County, and hopefully you're going to keep your boat in Putnam County for a while. So maybe we can get some dockage fees out of you from Crystal Cove or wherever you're going to keep it. So, but I just wish you well in your next endeavor. So,
Thank you.
And with that, I will turn it over to you for any comments.
Well, I want to thank each of you for the kind words. It's very much appreciated. Kelly's going to make a little money off us. Don't worry. Crystal Cove. We'll be there for a little while, but we're definitely Connie and I are very much looking forward to our next adventure. It's exciting. I'm definitely going to miss Putnam County. It's a very beautiful county. I've always said that, and I've made sure to let everybody know that, and I will continue to do that. It really is a wonderful place to really spend outdoors, between the river and the forest and everything else that's going on here. So I'll continue to encourage folks to do that, and we'll certainly continue to come up and partake in those activities. You can rest assured about that. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting, and we'll just see where things go after that. So I appreciate the time I've had here, and again, looking forward to what's next. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Sit down. Thank all of you. Oh, and I would absolutely be remiss if I didn't say, staff.
That's right.
Man, thank you, all of you, department heads, all the way on down. I got a lot of support from your staff in both those positions. And my gosh, during the hurricane, there was nobody saying, no, that's not my job. Everybody was digging in and helping me and helping Ms. Papel back at the EOC. So for you all, I want to thank you. Now I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. And Tabitha's staying, so
Yes.
that's a great thing. Tabitha, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. Would you? Tabitha's been his administrator assistant for the last couple of years. So would you like to say anything, Tabitha? If not, that'd be fine. Okay. All right. Okay. I see tears over there. So anyway, is there any further business to come before this commission? We have a 2 p.m. workshop. We stand adjourned.